Hi, my name's Bill Reeks. I'm with the Gramercy Institute. Today, we are very fortunate to have with us Mark Knowles. Mark is the General Manager of Creative Operations at TAG, and we're here today to talk about the very important topic of precision marketing. Mark, let's start at the beginning. What is precision marketing?
I think, precision marketing has a myriad of different definitions to different people, but really what it is it's about taking all of this wonderful sort of first party and third party data that we have access to and really drilling down into our kind of target demographics and target audiences and becoming really specific about the types of ads, the type of content, the type of creative that we're serving up these people that is just hyper relevant to them. And through that, kind of making sure that we're driving a much more effective kind of marketing ecosystem, right, and driving much more ROI for the brands.
Terrific, Mark, and thank you. Now, listen, tell me, why is this important specifically to financial services marketers?
Yeah, I think when we talk about precision marketing, we're talking about a world in which people are much more used to customized content, right? Content that is specific to them. Back in the good old days of linear advertising, we would target people based on awareness and, you just want to get your brand message out there and you want to create a sort of very all-encompassing campaign that can reach as many people as possible across the mediums of TV, print, and digital. I think now what's really important is that as demographics evolve, as cultures shift, as we become more inclusive, as we become more focused on the needs of our consumers and our customers, that we also serve them up the right content, the right product at the right time in the right place. And we go and meet them where they want to play, and I think that makes your brand a lot more accessible to the consumer. And it shows that you're considering them as you're considering the products that you're selling to them. It creates a much more personal advertising experience.
Mark, thank you so much. Now, listen, are there any examples that come to mind that can help us all get our heads around this concept?
Yeah. So some of the ways that we explain it, that we're going from kind of a persona-based targeting, which is, let's say, for example, we want in the financial services sector to target Latin American people, right? That's a persona. It's just an overarching demographic, not much specificity, right? But what we want to do is we want to actually drill down into that persona and we want it to become much more precise. So we can actually then turn around and say that we want to target our audience of Latin American people is 16.5 million. We want to target those people in specific parts of the country, specific age ranges, on specific devices, in specific channels, and with specific creative content that will resonate with them. So we start to apply a lot more data to the type of creative that we're serving up, and that enables us to target them in a much more specific way using a combination of both first-party data that maybe a financial services institution holds, and also third-party data that we may have access to through social applications, Facebook, things like that, that we can sort of tie those two pools of data together and get really, really specific about our audience.
Yeah. Mark, thank you so much. Let's talk about results. All right. What kind of results should marketers expect when we're talking about precision marketing?
I think when we talk about results, I think it's really important to consider the journey as much as the improvement on CPA or kind of like monthly active users or whatever your metric is of success. Different financial services brands will have different metrics by which they measure the success of a creative campaign. I think we've also got to consider, if we take it a step back a bit in terms of the general process of precision marketing. Precision marketing is as much about learning and hypothesizing and improving on an iterative basis as it is about just driving MAU or CTA or whatever, CPA or whatever the case might be. So what we want to do is we want to set up a really good, solid learning agenda. What do we want to learn? What do we want to find out? What do we want to learn about our customers that's going to enable us to target them more effectively? That is then going to generate a better ROI. So first and foremost, we've got to set up that learning agenda and we've got to hypothesize really well about what we think is going to be effective. And then we have to test different creative permutations in order to be able to ascertain, right, this asset performs better than this asset because of this hypothesis. So as we develop that strong learning agenda, as we develop that strong kind of collection of performant assets, we can then start to drive more effective ROI. But in some of the use cases that we've had, certainly across some of the sectors that we've been working on at the moment, specifically in financial services, we've seen asset improvements on, for example, like cost per acquisition, right? For example, we've seen improvements of like 78% on some assets that we've been delivering to clients. But that 78% comes over time once you've got that great learning agenda and once you understand what makes your consumers tick, so to speak.
Yeah. Mark, let me say this. My hunch is that there are financial brands out there that are totally embracing precision marketing as you've described it. My hunch is also that there are many financial brands out there that are not. So my question is to you, what's the next step for selecting a partner, and what should financial brands look for in their potential partner as they seek to embrace this process?
It's a great question, I think, and I think that precision marketing is kind of like almost to some degree the Holy Grail of marketing, right? You're actually able to create an attribution model that says, right, okay, this consumer did this action for this reason based on this creative. And that's kind of like the North Star of where we want to get to, which is why brands want to go down this route from a precision marketing perspective. I think the journey is really important, and selecting the right partner is part of that journey. So I think it's really important to assess your ecosystem as it currently stands. What is your attribution model? How do you understand how your creative is performing at the moment? And what are your key metrics for success based on your metrics? And also, what is your brand? Like having a really good understanding of your brand. What do you want to say? How do you want to say it? What's your tone of voice? Like making sure that you're turning up in a really authentic way is a really important foundation for any precision marketing agency, because it helps them to sort of fine tune the way they communicate with your consumers. So I think understanding your current ecosystem and the metrics and the drivers is really important. Understanding your brand is hugely important. And then finding a partner that I believe has the analytics, the creative, and the productions that sit side by side. Because I think a lot of the time when you decentralize one of those parts of the ecosystem, you lose a lot of efficacy, right? So let's say, for example, you might have a great creative and production partner, but your learning agenda and hypothesis sit with a media agency somewhere else. That translation of information from the media agency to the creative to the production dilutes the process a little bit, right? And I think that in the precision marketing world, you need to be very nimble, you need to be very quick, you need to be able to generate a lot of different types of content very quickly, because you're speaking across many, many channels and many, many different demographics in many, many different ways. So you need to also be able to look at the creative through the lens of production. So in that regard, having a digital team that can come up with a great learning agenda and having a creative team that sits side by side with those people to validate that learning agenda from a creative perspective, and then having production sitting alongside creative to validate the creative from a production perspective, means that you get a much quicker speed to market, you get a much better efficacy, and you get a much better end result, right, when everything is kind of linked together, you know?
Yeah. Mark, listen, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. I really appreciate it. I know our audience did. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Knowles, General Manager of Creative Operations at TAG. This is Bill Reeks from the Gramercy Institute, thanking everyone for joining us today.